Story 8, Thin Ice. "Here she goes, boys," Tom Carlson called out, turning on the hose and letting the water loose. He swept the hose back and forth, spraying water onto the plastic liner of the hockey rink he had built in his own backyard with the help of his son, Tom Jr. The rink was a quarter scale of an NHL rink, complete with wooden boards, plexiglass partitions, floodlights, and even an electronic scoreboard mounted at one end. It had taken the two Toms all summer and fall to build, and now, with temperatures plummeting, it was finally ready to be put into operation. "Just think," Tom Sr. said, throwing an arm around his son's shoulders as he guided the hose with the other. "You'll be able to practice and play all winter long, right here in your own backyard, just like Wayne Gretzky when he was your age." "Super, Dad," Tom Jr., known as TJ, enthused. The spunky 11-year-old was an even bigger hockey aficionado than his father, following the local AHL team, the Manitoba Moose, with true fan fervor. "Yep, you are one lucky puck," Mikey Chanowski marveled. "My dad won't even let me play badminton in our backyard." Mikey was one of TJ's friends, over to watch the big hose down. "Well, you can come over and play with TJ anytime you want," Tom said, "between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. "How long before the ice freezes properly and we can start skating on it, Mr. Carlson?" Shay Callahan, another of TJ's friends, asked. "Well, it's supposed to go down to -20 tonight, warm for this time of year in Winnipeg, but still cold enough, so it should be frozen solid by morning for sure." "Awesome!" Shay yelped. "What's the time now, Mr. Carlson? My parents can't afford a backyard hockey rink, but they're taking me to the game tonight. Maybe the Moose will finally break out of their losing streak." Tom flipped his wrist and glanced at his watch, accidentally giving Mikey an ice water face wash in the process. "Whoops! Sorry, Mikey. It's almost 6:30, Shay." "Gotta go," the skinny youngster in the Winnipeg Jets jersey said. "See you around, TJ?" "Yeah," Mikey said. "I guess I better get going too." He sneezed, wiping his nose on the same Boston Bruins parka sleeve he'd just dried his face on. "Meet you back here to walk to school in the morning like usual?" TJ asked. Mikey lived just down the street, Shay a couple of blocks over. "You can check out the rink with the ice all in." "Sure," the ear-muffed redhead let loose another sneeze. "Later, Gator." Father and son stood watch as the streaming, steaming water flooded the rink, slowly crystallizing their dreams of backyard shinny. "So you two are actually going ahead with it, eh?" Tom and TJ glanced at their next-door neighbor, Joe Tucker, who had wandered into their yard uninvited. Joe Blow, as Tom called the whining windbag, had groused his concerns many times before about the prospective noise level from having a bunch of kids playing hockey so close to his property and about the possibility of frozen pucks flying into his yard and maybe through his windows. He sniffed at the swirling water, nose held high. "Yup, we're almost ready for the face-off for the first time," TJ bragged, beaming up at his dad. Joe harumphed. "Just keep the noise and the pucks down is all I ask, or I'm calling the cops." He turned to leave and slipped on a puddle of ice, landing on his amply padded rear end with a thump. "Ooh," he moaned, as TJ rushed over to help him back to his feet. Tom kept right on watering the rink. "That's just great for my aching back," Joe groaned. "I already can hardly lift a thing at work." "That reminds me, Dad," TJ said. "I better go sand Mrs. Lacombe's steps before she goes out to get the paper in the morning. It's pretty icy around here." "Merci, TJ," Hortense Lacombe called from over the neighbouring fence on the other side, where she had been watching the proceedings. "You're such a good boy to remember an old lady. You're going to grow up to be another Morris Rocket, Richard, with your new hockey rink. No?" Rocket Richard was Hortense's favourite hockey player. Her father had taken her to see the Hall of Famer play at the old Montreal Forum when she was just a child, many, many years ago. "More like Alexandra Bolduc," TJ replied, naming his favourite player on the current Moose roster. TJ was up at the crack of dawn the following morning, anxious to see the new ice on the new rink. He listened to the sportscast on the radio as he threw on his clothes, cheering when he heard that his beloved Moose had finally broken out of their slump with a late goal in overtime. Then he pulled on his boots and parka and raced out into the backyard. His father was standing by the hockey rink, his shoulders slumped. "Someone vandalized our new rink last night," the man groaned. "They poured salt all over the ice. It's ruined." TJ stared at the cratered and pockmarked ice surface, where the salt had melted through it, at the empty 25-pound bag of road salt that had blown into a corner of the messed-up rink. The salt was a commonplace brand that people all over Manitoba used on their driveways and walkways and steps in the wintertime to melt ice and improve traction. "Telephone, TJ," his mum called from the back door. It was Mikey Chanowski's mother, informing TJ that Mikey wouldn't be stopping by his house to walk with him to school since he was sick in bed with the flu. "That's tough," TJ responded. "Yes, it is," Mikey's mother agreed. "He was sneezing and coughing so badly when he got back from your house last night, I had to put him straight to bed." No sooner had TJ hung up than the phone rang again. This time it was Shay, asking when he could come over to play hockey. "Cool your jets, Golden Jet," TJ replied dejectedly. "Someone ruined the ice." He sighed. "How was the Moose game anyway?" "Ruined the ice?" Shay shrieked over the phone. "Oh man, that stinks. The Moose game wasn't bad. Same old, you know." TJ hung up for a second time. Then he wandered back out into the backyard to stare at the scarred and pitted ice surface with his father again. "If it's any consolation, Dad," he said, "I know who did this." Tom glanced down at his son, surprised. "You do? Who?"